this is Patrick Flaherty, and this is the first show of Deep Astrology. And thanks to Lawrence Community Television for helping me out with this. And just to get it out of the way, because I'll usually forget, my website is deepastrology.org, and I have an audio podcast on Spotify and Apple. Again, Deep Astrology, Facebook, Deep Astrology, and YouTube. So, this is our first show, and we're sort of winging it here, figuring out what it's going to be about. Basically going to cover, I think, the astrology of the week. My plan is to come in every week for a half an hour and look at the current astrology, and then, throw in some other topics that, interest me or I think people might find interesting. I like teaching astrology. So I'm doing a class right now up in Raymond, New Hampshire, and we've been going through the planets. We've been taking 3 planets per class. And I'm at Angie Donju's Awakening Moments Center. So if you're in the area, you can check that out as well. But Angie Donju has come down here, and she's been on Tom's show. He's got the Paranormal News Hour, so thanks to Tom for helping me out with this too. So I guess, I don't know, I guess I should give a short bio. I haven't been doing astrology for my whole life. I've been doing it for, seriously, maybe for about 5 years, so not super long. But I have been interested in topics of spirituality and self-development, psychology, basically all my adult life, since I was 19 years old. So I've looked at a lot of different systems of spirituality. I was into Eastern spirituality, my 20s and 30s, like Buddhism and Hinduism, and so, like meditation and chanting and yoga and stuff like that. And, then more recently, not necessarily following any one specific path, but just getting more into Western spirituality, like the sort of the ancient hidden spirituality of the West, where you might call it Hermeticism or Gnosticism, alchemy, very interested in Carl Jung. So, not necessarily going to get into all those topics, but just to give an overview, I studied nonviolent communication for some time in my 40s. I'm also a trauma survivor, and I did several years of somatic experiencing trauma work, just as a client. But that, issue is close to my heart, and I've done some writing and podcasts on astrology and trauma, and like how you could find trauma in the birth chart, or what the birth chart can tell you about things that happen to you, and the lessons that we're here to learn, that came out of that trauma. So might do a show on that at some point. There's so much we can talk about. Astrology is just a huge subject, and you will never know all you can about astrology, no matter how long you study. There's just all kinds of facets and different traditions. I'm more of the psychological school of astrology that started in the 1970s. And so names that would be associated with that would be Liz Green, Howard Susportis. I'm kind of blanking out, but that whole school. And then, of course, there's more traditional astrologers. Kind of ironically or counterintuitively, that the traditional astrology has just recently come about as a big popular thing, and it's popular among younger people. So it almost doesn't make sense, but it is very popular right now, and that is looking back at how astrology was done about 2,000 years ago in Greece. And the reason it's become popular is because we didn't even have those texts translated until the 1990s. So we just didn't have that information. But you have people that do Renaissance astrology, that do Arabic astrology. Of course, there's Vedic, Indian astrology. It just goes on and on. If you want to find the best time for your wedding or to open a business, you can do electional astrology, and there are astrologers who specialize in that, timing life events so that they come out better, timing it to the planets. So yeah, there's endless topics. But I thought I'd just talk a little bit about what's going on in the sky right now, and take it from there. I've got my phone nearby if I need to check the chart. I'll have to put my glasses on because it's it's very small. But I think I've got enough up in my head that I can probably just talk. So the big news for this year really is the planet Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius. So why is this big news? Well, Pluto is a very slow-moving planet. It's the slowest moving planet that we have, and it will spend anywhere between 12 and 30 years in a sign. And the reason that varies so much, because usually planets will spend about the same amount of time in each sign. Like Uranus will spend 7 years in a sign, Neptune 14, and like I said, Pluto, it's anywhere between 12 and 30, and that's because Pluto will actually come in closer than Neptune at some points in its orbit, and then in other points of its orbit, it's way out in the Kuiper Belt. So it's a huge, it's got this very elliptical, erratic orbit that's sort of at a crosswise to all the other planets. It's doing its own thing. So we've just come off 15 years of Pluto in Capricorn, and now we're moving into 20 years of Pluto in Aquarius. So it's slowing down a bit, and so I think we could probably do most of the show and just talk about what does Pluto in Aquarius mean. I'd probably talk a little bit about some other stuff as well, but the outer planets, which again would be Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, have been called the root forces which move humanity. So there have been books written, not a lot of books, that have looked at the cycles of these planets and then have tracked those cycles with historical events, and they're just hugely fascinating. The main one that people use is called Cosmos and Psyche, and so that will, like for instance, take Uranus and Pluto. They have a cycle which is somewhere between 115 and 140 years, so which means that they will be in the same spot in the zodiac every 125 years or so, and then they both do their thing and they come around, and then they'll meet up again in a different sign. So the last time those two planets met up was in the sign of Virgo in the mid-60s, and both of those planets are about kind of radical change and transformation. So, what happened in the 60s, was just really radical change and transformation across the board, just in every kind of facet of life that you could think of, politically, musically, sexually, you name it, religiously. So now we're looking at Pluto moving into a different sign. Pluto takes 250 years to go around the zodiac. So, to look back at the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius, we have to go back to the 1780s and the 1790s. So that's, there's nobody alive today. There's no astrologer alive today that, obviously that experienced that. And then the astrologers back in the 1780s and 1790s, they didn't know Pluto existed yet. Pluto was only discovered in 1930. So, when we're talking about Pluto entering the sign of Aquarius for the first time in 250 years, there's a lot we don't know, and we have to look back to history to, to figure things out. The first thing that comes to mind is that there was the American Revolution and the French Revolution, and there was also a revolution in Haiti too. So there's a lot of revolution going on. Last time Pluto was in Aquarius. So, let's break down what Aquarius is about, what Pluto is about, and, see, does that make sense? So Aquarius is an air sign, and air signs are about two things. They're about the mind, and they're about society, people. So, when you look at Gemini, that's pretty obvious, right? Geminis are very curious, and they're also people persons. They're gregarious. But they're not necessarily going to. They're taking in a lot of information, but they may not necessarily do anything with it. But, before I go further, I want to say when I talk about a sign, I'm not talking about people with that sun sign. I'm talking about the energy of Gemini. So if you have the sun in Gemini, some of this is going to make sense to you, but don't think that, what I'm saying about Gemini defines you, because you're not only your sun sign, and this is something I'm gonna probably harp on a lot. You are not your sun sign. That's an important part of your chart, but you are a lot more than your sun sign. So, if I say like Gemini is about taking in a lot of information, but not necessarily doing anything with it. It's just that state of being curious. Don't take it to be a personal affront if you happen to be a Gemini or whatever sign I'm talking about, because you have other parts of your chart, and those other parts are going to balance out that Gemini. So you'll have another part of your chart that will do something with that information. And the same thing with Gemini with the gregariousness. The sign of Gemini is not necessarily looking for, like the long-term relationship, right? But again, you may be a Gemini and you may have other things in your chart that are totally about long-term relationships. So I hope that makes sense. When I'm talking about a sign, if you're that sun sign, just realize that, it's a part of you, but it's not your whole, persona. It's not your whole self. So anyway, I just want to get into the three air signs because I think it helps when we get to explain Aquarius. So that's Gemini. Then when we get to Libra, in terms of people and relationships, Libra is much more about wanting that, one-on-one connection and making sure everyone's needs get met. And also it's about valuing the information and weighing it. We got the scales, right? Libra's the scales. So we're taking in information and we're weighing it, and we're starting to create some kind of a social system, or you can think of the scales of justice. So there's like right and wrong, good and bad. It's not just curiosity. Now we're doing something with the information, and the same thing with people. We're not just being a social butterfly. Now we're engaging in more committed relationships. So now you get to Aquarius, and we're about entire belief systems in terms of the mind part, and we're about groups that we identify with as far as the people part. So Aquarius is a fixed sign, which means that people with the fixed signs really want to develop something very solid. So we're developing a solid belief system and a solid core group of people that we feel comfortable with. And if you think about it, if you have a belief system, usually that's going to determine who you're hanging out with. So they kind of go together. So that's part of what Aquarius is about. And also, and this kind of goes together with the belief system thing. Aquarius is about improving the lot of humanity. So you're taking that belief system, and you're wanting to apply it to the groups and make things better. Basically, that's what Aquarius is all about. So, and it's the last two signs of the zodiac. We have Aquarius and Pisces. I call those the universal signs because they're concerned with these big issues of humanity. And with Aquarius, it's more on an intellectual level, and then with Pisces, it's more on a feeling level. So we'll talk more about Pisces some other time, because we definitely got some stuff going on in Pisces. And next month will be Pisces season. So right now the sun is, I think, a few degrees away from entering Pisces. But we have a lot of other planets in Pisces. We're going to have, even when the sun moves into Pisces, we're going to have Pluto, Venus, Mars, and Mercury in Aquarius. So there's a lot of Aquarius energy going on right now. But let me just kind of finish talking about Pluto and Aquarius, and then maybe I'll talk about some of the other stuff as well. What Pluto is, like I said, it's the planet of transformation. So it's like a death and rebirth process, and it can be a little scary or a little disconcerting because some things that we depended on are going to fall away. And I guess the way you have to look at a Pluto transit, if it's really affecting you, is that what doesn't serve you is getting removed or recycled, so something better can take its place. Which we all, the something better taking its place sounds great, but it's the first part of that process which can freak people out, because we don't really know what's going to take its place yet. We just know that we've got to let go of the current program, the current situation, whatever that is. So when Pluto enters Aquarius, that process is going to be happening with our belief systems and the groups that we belong to. And so, and this is a 20-year transit, so, certainly nothing to freak out about, because it's going to be a gradual thing. And I always like to give the caveat as well as, transits don't hit everyone the same way. It just depends on how it hits your chart. So, if you've got a planet that's sort of right in line, like your sun or your moon or your ascendant, your rising, if that's right in line with Pluto right now, then yeah, you're going to be feeling this probably. But if not, you may be feeling it 2 years, 5 years, 10 or 15 years down the road. But I think we'll be seeing it on a societal level, because it will affect a large enough percentage of the population that we will sort of see it in society, And again, that's people kind of questioning their belief systems. Aquarius is your belief system, and then here comes Pluto. And again, it's going to upset the apple cart. And we may be seeing things, in our belief systems, and it could be political, it could be spiritual. I mean, it could even be related to our job. A lot of professions really require you to buy into a particular belief system. Whether it's certainly with the medical system or education system or anything really. So Pluto in Aquarius will bring out for people, stuff about their belief systems that no longer work for them, and that, they've got to let die, really, because, again, it's that process of death and rebirth. And then, see what is going to come, take its place. And again, that's a process. So it can feel a little scary. I mean, certainly when you get to the level of groups where we belong to in belief systems, we are very attached to that, to those things. And again, Aquarius is a fixed sign. So it really likes to hold on to what it's got. That's its nature. That's the nature of Aquarius. So belief systems are going to be up for grabs, and I think we'll be seeing that in society, and as well groups that we belong to. So you may belong to a certain group and just see certain things going on and think, well, I don't really agree anymore with the way these people are doing this, and maybe you just kind of fall away from that group and start gravitating toward other groups. So, again, this isn't going to be everybody. This is called mundane astrology. So mundane, it doesn't mean like boring everyday astrology. Mundane is from the Latin mundus, which means world. So, as I guess I would call myself a counseling astrologer, because, I would like to do one-on-one sessions with people about their natal chart and then what's going on for them at the moment. That's a very different kind of astrology. And, but when you're doing mundane astrology, you're looking at how these things are affecting the world as a whole, like, say, Pluto entering Aquarius. And it's tricky because, like I said, it's going to hit every person differently, at a different part in their chart and at a different timing. And, here's the interesting thing, too. Countries have charts. So now it's difficult to find the chart for a lot of countries. America's chart is pretty easy. July 4th. 1776 is generally agreed upon. In Philadelphia, there is there might be some disagreement about the time of day. But America's chart, there's a lot of agreement on that. But when you get to a chart for some of these countries that have been around for, a lot longer, like England, like, what the hell is England's chart? I mean, when did England begin? It's hard to say. So we do have pretty good charts for some of the more modern countries. And then there are countries where you just have no idea. Like, let's say Wales. We have no idea what the chart for Wales is. So this is mundane astrology, and it seems like a lot of astrologers are expected to do that, these days. And I enjoy it, but I always want to give the caveat out that, you may not, you may not be feeling any of this because it's just not hitting your chart right now. It may be hitting your chart in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, this, Pluto and Aquarius deal. So, that's probably enough on that topic. We've got 20 years to talk about Pluto and Aquarius, so we'll get back to it. But as I said, we do have a bunch of other planets in the sign right now. The sun will be in Aquarius. I'm not sure when this show is going to go out, so it may go out after the sun's passed into Pisces. But we're still going to have Mercury, Mars, and Venus, and Pluto, of course, in Aquarius. So there's like big Aquarius energy. So I think it was good to spend some time talking about Aquarius and what it's all about. The other thing that's gone on this month is that these planets are going to be making aspects to some planets, a couple of planets in the sign of Taurus. We've got Uranus in Taurus and Jupiter in Taurus. And Uranus has been in Taurus for a number of years. It's got a couple of years to go. Jupiter generally spends about a year in a sign, and so it's got a few more months to go in Taurus, and then Jupiter will be entering Gemini in May. But we've got these two important outer planets in Taurus, and then we've got these other guys, Mars, Venus, and Mercury, over here in Aquarius, and they're forming an aspect which is called a square, as they pass by certain degrees. So what does that mean? I guess one way to think about it is they're talking to each other would be one way to look at it. I mean, Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus kind of want one thing that has more to do with the sign of Taurus. So what's Taurus about? Taurus is ruled by Venus. What's Venus about? Venus is, what turns us on, what gives us pleasure, what gives us joy, where we find beauty and love in life. So Taurus is about those kind of really basic, almost creature comforts. It's an earth sign, so it's definitely more rooted in the body, and that's what Taurus is all about. And it's one of the first two signs. Taurus and Aries is our first sign. Taurus is our second. So I call those signs instinctual signs. So they're just about very basic parts of our life. And again, that's not to denigrate those signs in any way. If you happen to have a Aries sun or a Taurus sun, to say that they're, basic. I mean, that, we all have every sign in our chart, and we all have all these energies inside us, and they all play a part. So I personally don't have any planets in Taurus, but I really wish I did. I wish I could get more of that Taurus energy in my life, so I might attract people that have more Taurus going on in their charts, because that's kind of how things work. But so Taurus, again, a very basic kind of instinctual, kind of in the moment, these very kind of very personal, body-centered emotions and drives about, feeling good and feeling pleasure and finding beauty and love and, all those Venusian things in our lives. And then we've got this Aquarius thing going on, which is, building these edifices of thought and improving society. And, so we've got a lot of energy going on in Aquarius right now. I mean, we got Mars and Venus, both Mars and Venus are kind of about our desire energy. Again, we talked about what Venus is. Venus is what turns us on, and Mars is how do we get that? Mars is going out to, meet our needs and, being more proactive about it. So we've got those two planets in Aquarius. We've got Mercury in Aquarius, which means our, our mental faculties are going to be focused on these Aquarian ideals, these ideals for a better society and improving things and so forth. And again, they're going to be square to these planets in Taurus. Now, square is the most difficult. It's the most difficult aspect. So basically, there's going to be a conflict. So I would look, just look, and again, this is not going to hit everyone the same way, but look in your life where you've got big ideas, and then maybe they're conflicting with some of these more realities on the ground of like how people are feeling day to day, in a very kind of personal, in the moment way about things that make their life nice, make their life wonderful, to borrow a phrase from NBC. The thing about Aquarius is it can kind of run roughshod over people's emotions. That's the thing. It's got this plan, and its intentions are ostensibly good. Aquarius wants to improve things, but it's like improving things for the whole society, and it's not necessarily that concern with like this person over here and what's their little desire, and this person over here and what's their little thing that they like, and I think we see that in society. I think we see that with the utopian dreams and utopian programs that sometimes don't take into account a lot of like the reality on the ground. And this would be the Aquarian Taurus square, that's happening right now. So we may see that playing out in society. I'm not as keyed into the news as a lot of people. I purposely don't follow the news because it upsets me. I probably should as an astrologer, because I know a lot of times you'll see the astrology being played out. But anyway, you may see this being played out in the news. You may see it being played out in your own life or within yourself. There's a number of ways that a square or any transit that's happening can play out. You can play one part, and then people in your life could play the other part. So you could have the utopian ideals, and then other people would be the people that have more sort of daily concerns, that very well. Actually, there's one good example in the news, and we don't really see it too much here in the States, and I'm not sure how much it's getting reported on conventional news media, but there have been a lot of farmers' protests all across Europe. And, a lot of it's about restrictive laws that may have to do with, climate or different issues, but are really not taking into account the fact that, people are making their livelihood from farming. And certainly, enacting these laws would almost certainly shut down a lot of farmers in Europe, So I know there were farmers protesting in Paris, France, and I think all over Europe, maybe in Ireland, Spain, Italy, I think the Netherlands. So the farmers are obviously Taurus, right? Taurus is Taurus season starts in April, so it's when things start to grow, and Taurus is definitely related to agriculture. So we've got the farmers on one side, and then we've got these Aquarian bureaucrats on the other side, and this is to square that is playing out in, in the politics over in Europe. And I really, I try not to get too political or take sides. I'm really, I think I'm somewhere, beyond the left and right dichotomy. I like to think I am. And I think, anyway, I won't get too far into that, but, and just for my own peace of mind, I really don't, I don't like to get too involved. But, when I see something being played out, when I see an astrological transit being played out so precisely, like this Aquarius Taurus square over there in Europe, I've just got to bring it up, and I've actually spent a lot of time in Europe. And one thing, if you go to Europe and you go out to eat, you notice that everything tastes better. The food there is fantastic. Whether it's the wine, the cheese, the butter, the meat, the fruit, the vegetables. I mean, every single food item in Europe tastes better. And there are even people who say they can't eat wheat here in America, and they go over there and they can eat wheat no problem. So that's, pretty amazing. I think the farmers over there are, apparently they're, doing a great job. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're doing a great job. So I'm definitely, for keeping that tradition alive. Yeah, that's a bit of mundane astrology. But yeah, like I said, you might, I think I'm going to wind this down, but you might see it playing out in your life where maybe you've got the utopian dreams and someone else in your life is more of that Taurus person, or maybe you're the Taurus person, you're trying to do your thing, very simple, and then someone's coming in with this big plan and trying to mess with it. And so, those are the things that are playing out, and hopefully, if they're showing up in your life, you can kind of bring those energies together. I mean, there's nothing saying that the square between Aquarius and Taurus can't be resolved. It certainly can, but it's going to take some work, because there is definitely, both sides are just going to need to work to understand each other, and that's difficult for an Aquarian to understand a Taurus, and a Taurus to understand an Aquarian. They're really coming from very different points of view. Again, Taurus is pretty instinctual, pretty like down to earth in the moment, and Aquarius is like way up here, with this big high ideas and high ideals, and looking at humanity as a whole, and that's we've got to try and bring those things together. At least this month. Next month it'll be another crisis, another drama. We'll see what happens when in Pisces season. But that's what's going on right now. I think I want to wind it down. I will, say again, I have a website at deepastrology.org. I do readings. You can look for me at Deep Astrology on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. And I'm also teaching some astrology classes in Raymond, New Hampshire at the Awakening Moment Center. And you can find those on Meetup. I think the center itself has a website, but the way to sign up for stuff that they've got going on, I think the best way is through Meetup, Awakening Moment Center. So I'm doing that. Hope you like the first show, and I'm looking forward to coming back and doing some more to this. And thanks again to LCAT and Tom and Sarah and everyone here. All right. Take care.